The first-class cabin was incredibly spacious. Kim Min-jeong inevitably looked shabby sitting inside, and she looked even more awkward when she sat next to Yoo Jae-min, huddled on the other side of the chair. Yoo Jae-min asked for 2 blankets, one for Kim Min-jeong and one for herself. She lay down elegantly, wearing a steam eye mask that covered most of her face. In Kim Min-jeong's eyes, Yoo Jae-min, who was sitting next to her, was the embodiment of the 4 characters leisurely and contented. And she herself was a green leaf. She was not used to such a luxurious atmosphere and moved her body impatiently. Outside the window, the setting sun hid in the clouds, lighting up a red sea with a few flying birds dotted in between. The sudden voice startled her. Originally, I couldn't hire you. Min-jeong looked back at her and asked, why? This kind of job with paid travel, food and accommodation is quite popular in your company. Most of the people who contacted me at the time volunteered to take the job, but when I pointed out that the project involved extreme sports and that they had to sign a life and death agreement and that I would not be responsible for any sequelae, they all ran away. Yoo Jimmy explained, your company didn't want to miss out on this money from me, so the contact person hesitated for a long time and told me that there were people, and asked me to wait a moment, and then took out your information. People know the end of their lives, but they are stingy with illness. While struggling to leave something in the world, people don't want to be hurt even a little. Extreme sports. Kim Min-jeong closed the curtains and said, seeing me like this, you must feel like you've been cheated, right? No, you're perfect. She smiled softly. Okay. Kim Min-jeong has heard these words, you are a good match, many times. His superiors have said it, his colleagues have said it, and people at home have said it. It's nothing more than coaxing or deceiving people. Hearing the response in the other party's words, Jae-min lifted a corner of the blindfold and looked into Kim Min-jeong's eyes. It's true. Her tone is steak, not like a joke. Min-jeong avoided her gaze. It's snowing heavily in Argentina now, but the northern part is still survivable. We'll go to Mendoza, which will make it convenient for us to go to the Patagonia ice field. I've already booked a hotel, and the clothes are warm enough. If you're cold, tell me and I'll give you 2. Kim Min-jeong was very familiar with this place name, as if she had heard it in high school. Patagonia, she muttered and repeated. She remembered, when she was in high school, teacher said that was the end of the world. It was night when we arrived and Patagones was snowing lightly. It was autumn in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere, and the street lights on the small streets of the ancient town lit up the white snow on the ground, making it easier to see the snow. Someone is here to pick her up. The gray building in the small town flashed by, and Kim Min-jeong was sitting in a heated car, with her scarf covering most of her face, revealing only a pair of wet eyes. She stole a glance at Yoo Jae-min. She had taken off her gloves and was typing on his phone with one hand. The screen light was a little bright in the dark. Yoo Jae-min forgot to turn down the brightness and squinted her eyes. Her finger bones were slender and distinct, and the fingertips turned pink because of the light. Kim Min-jeong retracted his gaze and looked at the scenery outside again. The driver suddenly started speaking Spanish, which she couldn't understand, but Yoo Jae-min understood it and spoke fluently to the driver. The driver asked me why I didn't speak, and I told him that you didn't speak Spanish, taking the time out. Yoo Jae-min poked Kim Min-jeong with her elbow and translated for her. Kim Min-jeong turned his head to look at the driver. The driver in the rearview mirror was smiling innocently. What about Jae-min? She was almost the same. The light from the phone screen reflected in her eyes, allowing Kim Min-jeong to see all the subtle smiles on her face clearly. She responded, showing her chin as much as possible and giving them a neutral smile. She and the driver started chatting again, in the atmosphere of a language that Kim Min-jeong couldn't understand. She moved her body, leaned against the car door, and immersed herself in her own world. The driver said you were cute. She smiled when she was suddenly mentioned again. Thank you. Yoo Jae-min translated back and forth between the two people, and the driver finally burst into laughter and almost forgot to drive. Kim Min-jeong thought she would arrive at the hotel quietly, but Yoo Jae-min called her repeatedly, so she began to listen to their conversation patiently. He asked where you were from. Bisan, South Korea. She thought for a moment and added, I grew up in Liangshan. What month and day were you born? January 1st. Jae-min raised an eyebrow, turned around and said a few words to the driver, then turned back again. Wouldn't it be easy to be overlooked if it's New Year's Eve every year? Kim Min-jeong was stunned. The driver said something, and Yoo Jae-min translated. He said this birthday is very spiritual. Maybe there is another meaning. Spirituality? Kim Min-jeong smiled. They chatted like this and soon arrived at the hotel. Before getting off the car, Jae-min exchanged contact information with the driver, and Min-jeong gave it to him as well. The hotel Yoo Jae-min booked was certainly not bad, with a spacious corridor and a crystal clear chandelier at the front desk. Kim Min-jeong carried the bag on her shoulder and dragged Yoo Jae-min's suitcase with her left hand. Yoo Jae-min got a room card and walked towards her with a wink. Yoo Jae-min said, "Let's go to the 7th floor." Kim Min-jeong hesitated. She could understand that the budget was limited, but it was not easy to ask whether it was a double room or a single room. It seemed that she was very anxious. She silently scrutinized that Yoo Jae-min didn't seem to be a person who slept in the same bed with strangers. She seemed to be very clean, and a double bed was more likely. There were several rooms on the 7th floor. The corridor was dim and the soft blanket under her feet made it difficult for Kim Min-jeong to drag the suitcase. Because of the flexibility of the suitcase wheels, Yoo Jae-min took it and led her in front. When she opened the door with the room card, Kim Min-jeong pursed her lips and finally asked, "Is there only one room?" Yoo Jae-min looked back at her and said, "There are 2 floors in one room, which is enough." Yes. Who said there is only one bed in a room? Kim Min-jeong had to laugh at his own short-sightedness. When she walked in, she was shocked again. An oversized floor-to-ceiling window served as the wall facing the city. Next to it was a sofa, with a coffee table in the middle. Next to the TV was a guitar. If the TV was moved away, there was a projector for watching movies. Across the wall was a semi-open dining room. Although there were no ingredients in the refrigerator, the seasonings were complete, including the necessary oil and salt. Behind the living room was a spiral staircase. There were 4 rooms on the 2nd floor, each one bigger than the other. There was even a gym, so wide that a billiard table was placed in the middle, so that people could play billiards when they were free after working out. She carried her backpack and huddled into her cotton jacket again. "Pick a room. It's late today. Go to bed early. You are very rich." Yoo Jae-min looked at her with some confusion. "This place looks like a villa," Kim Min-jeong explained, looking away. "I'm not rich, but I'll probably spend all my money living here in a year." Silence again. Faced with this wealth disparity, Kim Min-jeong suddenly became like an ant under the feet of a human, terrified and worried about breaking something, or making the person in front of her unhappy if she acted rashly. Yoo Jae-min just came over and pushed her upstairs. "Choose a room. Aren't you sleepy?" "I'm so sleepy." Kim Min-jeong reluctantly picked a relatively small one. Yoo Jae-min lived next door. They were all tired after the long journey, and Kim Min-jeong rarely listened to music to help her sleep, but fell asleep just by smelling the agarwood on the pillow. Before going to bed, her mind was unclear and everything she thought about was disjointed. "It seems like this is the first time I have slept so comfortably. Very soft bed, very fragrant pillows. There seems to be music. Is it coming from next door? I don't know and I don't want to know. Go to sleep. Good night. Sweet dreams." Kim Min-jeong woke up several times, not because of mental problems, but because the environment she was in was too unreal and he felt uncomfortable. From the bottom of her heart, she didn't set the alarm clock, woke up on time at 6 o'clock and lay down again, and slept until 8:30. By breakfast, this strange task suddenly popped up, scaring Kim Min-jeong so much that she jumped up like a spring. She dragged her sleepy body to wash up, and then quickly rushed down the stairs, but Yoo Jae-min bought breakfast by herself, still wearing her coat, sitting on the sofa and leisurely eating bread. Yoo Jae-min heard the voice and looked up. "Are you awake? Come down and have breakfast. I also bought 2 eggs for you." Kim Min-jeong's steps were particularly heavy as he walked down. She did wash up, but she didn't comb her hair. Her hair was a mess like a bird's nest, and her body was wrapped up like a dumpling. She looked so funny. Before Yoo Jae-min could speak, she said, "We need to set a schedule. For example, what time should I get up, go buy breakfast, or do something else?" You should show your own value, right?" Yoo Jae-min suppressed her smile. "Look, I made it. See if there's anything wrong with it. Get up at 8 o'clock every morning, buy food every 3 days. Kim Min-jeong needs to clean the room every day. Fold the quilt if it is messy, wipe the table if it is dirty, and use the empty space when Yoo Jae-min has other plans." In fact, she didn't just want to show her own value. Kim Minjeong was very terrified. She had never been treated so well before. She wanted to do more to let Yoo Jae-min know that she was still useful. This has always been her style. Be good and trouble won't come to you. Kim Minjeong handed her the phone back and nodded. Sure. After a pause, she continued, how long will you live here? Irregularly, depending on my mood. Yoo Jae-min answered casually. Rich people are indeed willful. Kim Minjeong sat down stiffly and was about to eat eggs when Yoo Jae-min stood up, took the guitar next to the sofa and asked her, are you interested in guitar? She pretended to scratch it, and the guitar made a crisp sound. Kim Minjeong said, I have learned a little. Try it. She adjusted the volume and sang a simple Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star. Yeah, okay. Did you take the picture? Yeah, that sounds good to me. Can you delete it? Of course. Kim Minjeong let out a sigh. Yoo Jae-min put away her phone. Hurry up and have breakfast. We'll go for a walk in the street later. Okay. As soon as he finished speaking, Yoo Jae-min stretched out his 5 fingers and helped her tidy up her hair. This place is empty at night, but crowded in the morning. It was crowded and hustling. Yoo Jae-min and Kim Minjeong finally got to a small shop, and their clothes were already wrinkled. Kim Minjeong put her clothes in order and curled up into a ball. Yoo Jae-min breathed a sigh of relief and sat down. There are so many people here. Huh? You're here? A very familiar voice. Turning her head, Jae-min raised her eyebrows in surprise. Hey, Ning Ning, didn't you say you can only arrive tomorrow? A surprise for you. I didn't expect to meet you here. The person named Ning Ning smiled and turned to look at the person next to Jae-min. Kim Minjeong thought something was wrong and quickly avoided looking at her. But she was still noticed. Ning Yi-huo asked, she is someone you hired, right? Yeah. Jae-min looked up and patted Minjeong's arm. She is a very good person. If Kim Minjeong remembered correctly, they had just met yesterday. This person actually said that she was a very good person. As they were talking, another person squeezed into the store. Yoo Jae-min heard her voice and called out, Eri, here. There are so many people here, Jae-min. Everyone is here, right? Ning Yi-huo blinked. Jae-min stood up and said, looks like the dinner will have to be moved forward to today. Let's go. Kim Minjeong wanted to say something, but didn't say it in the end. Very good. The 3 people talking happily and one person being isolated and helpless form in oil painting. Kim Minjeong silently applied the eating tips she had found online to the food in this restaurant. And the taste was okay, but the other 3 people were better at eating than her. When the barbecue was served, it was sizzling with oil, sprinkled with chili powder, and then put the meat in the pancake and drizzled with other sauces to eat together. According to them, the taste was particularly good. Ning Yi-huo graduated from a high-end music school, and Ariuka Naga was also quite knowledgeable about music. They knew each other, and while chatting, Eri turned her gaze to Kim Minjeong, who had been silent the whole time and spoke casually. The video you sent me looked pretty good to me. My teacher also said she had talent. Did she continue to study? I don't think so. Minjeong, will you continue to learn guitar after college? Being called suddenly, Kim Minjeong was startled. Yes, but very few. That's such a pity. Your fingering for that song is good, and you tuned the music yourself. You still remember it after such a long time. You really have a good talent, Eri said regretfully. Kim Minjeong glanced at Yoo Jae-min and asked in a low voice, didn't you say you deleted it? I said I could delete it, but I didn't say I would delete it, Yoo Jae-min answered loudly. Kim Minjeong was frightened by her answer and couldn't help beating her under the table. Yoo Jae-min smiled as if he was about to. Are you interested in continuing to play the guitar? If you learn, you must make rapid progress. Forget it. Kim Minjeong waved her hand. Yoo Jae-min smiled. Don't make it difficult for her. She will do what she wants to do. You speak as if you know me very well, Kim Minjeong complained in her heart. Ning Yi-huo said, my friend was a bit like Minjeong when she first started learning. Music is something that becomes more and more addictive the more you learn it. It's hard to resist. Ning Yi-huo and Eri started chatting, and Kim Minjeong touched Yoo Jae-min's elbow and asked her, can you play a musical instrument? I learned piano. Oh, that is amazing. Yoo Jae-min glanced at her. Why don't you learn to play the guitar? My family told me that listening to guitar music is good for your health. When you learn it, play it for me, so that I can live a long life. I thought you could live to be 1,000 years just relying on money. Kim Min Jiyoung couldn't help but mutter. Under her breath, Yoo Jae-min pursed her lips and said, "Just tell me whether you want to learn or not. Is this work? That's right for the employer. Then I will learn if I can learn. I will learn, if I can't, forget it." Ariuka Naga sat opposite and watched the two of them plotting. Yoo Jae-min looked happy, and it was obvious that they were successful. She agreed to learn. Yoo Jae-min's voice was always low, but it was raised at this moment, full of energy. And her arm could not help but go around Min Jiyoung's shoulders and embrace her. It was the first time that Kim Min Jiyoung was approached like this, and she did not dare to move rashly. There was a moment of silence, and Kim Min Jiyoung touched her nose awkwardly. Ariuka Naga sat opposite her, glanced at her, glanced at Yoo Jae-min, and smiled with an ambiguous smile. Ning Yi Huo. Okay, then our group aespa is officially established. With 4 members, Jae-min's sister, Ari's sister, Min Jiyoung's sister, and me, Ari. Excuse me, how is the boss's salary? Yoo Jae-min. Won't die. Ari. Yes. Kim Min Jiyoung was a little confused. She just agreed to learn guitar. So why was she suddenly dragged into some unknown group? These people were talking and laughing, and she didn't know if it was true or not. It looked like a joke. So she tucked her hair behind her ears and didn't take it seriously. No wonder the hotel is so big. It turns out that 4 people are required to stay together. Ariuka Naga is a friend of Yoo Jae-min. Jae-min said that Ari and her have known each other for a long time and were classmates in college. Ari also said that Jae-min has several rental houses next to the building where Min Jiyoung lives, and she goes to collect rent every month. Kim Min Jiyoung didn't intend to know this. She only knew it from listening to the 2 of them chatting while playing billiard in the gym. She cast her eyes towards Ning Yi Huo's room. She was still outside, saying that she had to take a walk to digest her food after eating, which was a habit she developed in China. Ari leaned against the table, casually wiping the sweat from her forehead with the towel draped around her neck, and said, "Min Jiyoung, come here. I'm going to take a shower." Elle can't. This can usually be used as an excuse. That is fine, Jae-min is happy to teach. Now it is second class. Looking at Ari's leaving back, Min Jiyoung's thin body felt lonely and cold. No, except for the cold, everything else seemed to be gone. She shook the pool cue somewhat helplessly, and Jae-min smiled. It's not that difficult. Just understand the rules and remember the moves. Kim Min Jiyoung nodded and agreed. The sound of her footsteps was particularly noticeable. Even though she was still talking, she smelled a gentle rose scent that distracted her. Kim Min Jiyoung looked up and observed Yoo Jae-min's face carefully for the first time. Delicate and petite, with fair skin, delicate and soft eyebrows, a pair of bright eyes with upturned ends, long and slender eyelashes. Even the slightest tremor is clearly visible. And excellent bone structure. From the root of the nose to the tip of the nose to the chin, all are charming. There is a mole under the corner of his mouth, like God's finishing touch. Do you understand? Understand. Kim Min Jiyoung didn't listen carefully at all and responded guiltily. Yoo Jae-min knew it, walked around behind her and leaned against her back. When the warm and soft touch really came, Yan Jing's body subconsciously stiffened. Her sister asked her to bend down, put one hand on the table, hold the pool club in the other hand, aim at the air, and poke again and again. Legs, open a little. The voice was low and the breath was right beside her ear. The hair on her right ear was ruffled, making her ear itchy. She couldn't help but shrink her neck, and then did what her sister said. The fragrance was like a snake's tongue, entwining Kim Min Jiyoung's hands and confusing her brain. For a moment, she was in the sea, without balance, and could only rely on the person behind her. Yoo Jae-min placed her hand on Kim Min Jiyoung's waist. Such a sensitive spot would make people explode when touched. Kim Min Jiyoung almost jumped up, but the hand moved to her waist. She suppressed her sensitivity, her cheeks flushed. Shame and a little anxiety surged up, forcing her to tremble all over. Before she exploded, her sister stood up and casually patted Min Jiyoung's buttocks to signal her that she was ready. Kim Min Jiyoung stood up with the help of the billiard table, her eyes wandering. What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Your face is red. Jae-min leaned in closer, worry evident on her face. So sincere that it made Kim Min Jiyoung blush. No, I'm fine. Really? She placed her hand on her forehead, and Kim Min Jiyoung smelled an even stronger rose scent. It's a little hot. Go lie down on the bed first, I'll get you some medicine.